Hello and welcome back to another wonderful video by yours truly, and I'm so humble about it. Today we are going to be talking about another mafia romance series, I know, and I'm actually stepping out of the Core Riley universe. I know, crazy. I think this is the first, at least video I've made about a mafia series that is not in the Core Riley universe, which is kind of crazy. But it did not disappoint. I am going to be talking about the Perfectly Imperfect series by Neva Altaj. Sorry if I said her name incorrectly. I looked at the pronunciation for it, I always do, and then I don't know, I just panic, so hopefully I said it right. But like I said, that's the series. There's 8 books right now, but there is a ninth book that is supposed to be coming out even on Goodreads. It already has the little blurb, so I think it's supposed to come out soon-ish at least, which I'm excited about. I was very disappointed to learn that it wasn't already out because, when you're in the middle of a series, you just want to be able to finish it all. But I did greatly enjoy this series. Honestly, I don't have complaints of the series as a whole. I really liked it, and I literally found it by Googling mafia romances because I wanted to read one, and Core Riley doesn't have any more for me. So I'm very happy with what I found. Okay, diving in, our first book. Oh, I don't remember what it's called. The first book is called Painted Scars, and it's about Nina and Roman. And he is the Pakan of the Russian Bratva, which is like the Russian mafia, whatever. So we also kind of dance around like different ones of the mafias. But we start in the Russian with Roman. And basically Roman he has recently been injured. Like his whole leg or half of his leg, I think it's half of his leg is like blown off in an explosion. Oh my God. Also, this video will contain spoilers. Oh my gosh, I forgot to say that. So please do not watch if you don't want spoilers. I'm so sorry. I meant to say that. Okay, cool. Um, his leg was blown off in an explosion in like an attempt to kill him. And because of this, he's kind of been like holed up in his like room and his like house, whatever. And his like trusted advisor and best friend is kind of like, okay, you need to like get out there or people are going to think you're really weak. And he was like, a perfect way to do that is to get married because then they'll have like someone who can show like it'll be something else to focus on and it'll be something like that people, yeah, can focus on. And it's like a happy thing. And it's them not focusing about him being strong enough or whatever. And then he can make appearances with her, making sure that he looks really strong so that they can, he can still be the leader and still be strong and whatever, basically. And then Nina comes in because she's not part of the mafia world at all. Her dad has a very bad gambling habit, and he's actually like gambled away millions of dollars at the hands of the Bratva. So they concoct this plan to have Nina be the one to marry Roman because she's in debt to him, and this would be like she wouldn't tell anyone, and like her parents' lives would be at stake, and her life, and like all this stuff. So it's basically like forcing her to marry him so that her family will be saved. Nina is like an artist. She's paints, I'm pretty sure. So they move in together and they just kind of have like a natural like kind of avoidance of each other, and then eventually that turns into like her feeling like emotions towards him and being kind of like unsure about it, and then they start spending more time together, and she kind of has like a traumatic past of like having an abusive boyfriend, and he's very kind about that and like helps reassure her and things like that. And they have a pretty honestly boring book, if I'm gonna be honest. Not much happens and it's kind of boring, and basically the end result is that she wants to be married to him and she chooses to be married to him after they've taken some time apart, and he's all happy and is all like, oh my gosh, perfect. And then they live happily ever after together, basically. And that's basically the whole book. Like I said, pretty boring. Broken Whispers, which this is Mikhail's and Bianca's book. So Mikhail is a Russian Bratva enforcer, and then Bianca is the daughter of like I think one of the captains of the Italian mafia. So kind of tying in the Italian now, getting some storylines connecting. Um, I really like this one. Honestly, I kind of forget, but I'm pretty sure this is my favorite of the entire series. I'll reaffirm that at the end if that is true, but I really liked it. It's because of Mikhail. Like, he's so sweet. He's so sweet. I love a sweet boy, and he's so sweet. Literally, the story is like, the Italian and Russian mafia are like at each other's throats, and there's like an impending war basically about to happen. So to kind of smooth that over, they decide to have a marriage to kind of like try to connect this. So Roman, the Russian mafia leader, offers up Mikhail. Well, he kind of offers it up to anyone, and Mikhail's like the one that's like, I'll do it, which everyone's shocked by because he has like a very bad past and he doesn't like people touching him, so it's kind of complicated. And but the reason he agrees is because he knows Bianca, kind of, not really. Bianca is a part of the Italian mob, but like not really. Like she's has nothing really to do with it. Like she was born into it, but like it's not like other series where she's like really like steeped into it, I would say. She kind of has like a lot more freedom. But anyway, she's a ballerina and she's like a professional ballerina in Chicago. And yeah, and Mikkel goes to see her every night. Bianca does not know this. She knows she has like a secret admirer who leaves her a rose after every single performance, but she doesn't know it. And because Mikkel doesn't want her to know because he has like scars and he kind of doesn't look like super handsome because of this accident he had. So he doesn't want her to know who he is. But Mikkel's like in love with her, so he agrees to marry her because he doesn't want anyone else to like have her or marry her. So Bianca, the reason she's doing this is because her father is awful and basically threatens that if she doesn't marry Mikkel or someone from the Russian mafia, then he'll just have her younger sister do it, and her younger sister is like 17 or something, and she's like, I'm absolutely not letting that happen. So she does it for her basically to save her. So she's not really like thrilled about this, but she's kind of accepted her fate at the same time. She also had like a career-ending like knee injury or something like that, so she can't dance anymore professionally. So she was already like giving up that dream. So she's kind of like, I would say, resigned to the fact, kind of. She meets Mikkel and she's very much like interested in him. Like she finds him very attractive and she finds him very sweet, which she didn't expect at all. And also important to note, Bianca cannot talk. She's mute. It's like an accident involving her dad that happened earlier. It was like a car crash and she lost her ability to speak. So she usually communicates by either just like gesturing. She knows American Sign Language or ASL, but her family doesn't really know it. Only her sister knows it. Yeah, and Mikkel actually does know ASL, but he keeps it a secret for her for a while, which is messed up and awful because she can't communicate with him. Like that's like denying her that language, which is awful. But anyways, Mikkel also has a daughter. She's like, I want to say like 6 or 7 or maybe even 8. I don't really remember. But she's really sweet and very much likes Bianca. And they kind of just play house for a while. Like they're very happy just like together and all this stuff. And the greatest obstacle in this book is kind of just that Mikkel doesn't really believe in himself and doesn't really believe he like deserves love based off of like his past and like with his daughter's mom leaving them and like all of these things. Like he hasn't really had good experiences with love. So, and he also like looks really ugly after his accident. So like he doesn't believe he deserves any love, and Bianca's just like, no, you fully do. And it's such a cute book. It's just them being so sweet together. And like I said, Mikkel's so sweet, which is my favorite. Like I just love when they're like so sweet and nice. Like that's what I want, and that's just the best. And like why would you not just want a sweet hot man being nice to you? Like that's the best thing in the world. So that's what they were, and it was very sweet, and I very much like this book. One thing too I want to say is that I did like about the series, it brought in some like interesting dynamics and interesting storylines that I had not read before in a mafia books before, which I just thought were interesting and like they weren't all just like tied together through like the mafia. Like there's this like underlying current or like subplot or characters that are connected through this like government training of teens into assassins. Yeah, you heard that right. And three of the boys are from that. Well, the one book that hasn't come out yet, he's one of them, but two of the boys in the book's already out are from that, and that's how they're connected, which can then connects to the mafias and like connects them all together, and then like they visit each other. So I like that there was like another subsection of connection that's just beyond the mafias, just like knowing each other. Like they like grew up together basically and like very much know each other. So I thought that was cool. I'd never really like seen that before. But the next book is Hidden Truths, and it follows Sergei, and Angelina. And this one, Sergei is one of the boys that was like his parents died, and then like the American government found him and trained him to be an assassin, basically. And then they sent him on missions to like do that. Cool. And because of his skill set, he's like really talented, and he's actually the half brother of Roman from the Russian first book, Pakon. I don't know how to say all these freaking terms, and it's annoying me. But anyways, so they're related, and he's like part of that. So he went to Roman, and he's been like working with him in the Russian Bratva for years now. Um, yeah, so basically he just but he's like out of control. He goes on these like murdering sprees basically where he like can't control himself. And it's because basically of how they messed him up as a young child who was very vulnerable, losing both of his parents, and then they forced him to become a killer, and like he didn't really want to be a killer, and then they just forced him to do it anyways. And now he's super mentally messed up because of that. Because obviously, Felix is like his like father figure. He was with them in the like government training. He was like their like overseer or whatever, and he was the one who actually got Sergei out because he was like, this is becoming way too much and he's becoming too dangerous. Sorry if you can hear the fan. I had to turn it on. It's like blazing hot up here with the sun coming in, so sorry if you can hear that. But anyways, Angelina is part of the Mexican cartel and like born into it. Like her dad worked for them to some capacity. I don't remember. I think he was like a captain. Um, and her story starts basically like her father was, and then her and her grandma were taken as hostages from the guy who her father to try to like take over his branch of the cartel. And he was going to force Angelina to become his wife and treat her very not well. So Angelina's grandma comes up with this plan of sending her in one of the trucks because they also do very bad things of sending women places. And and she puts her on the truck instead and is like, escape when you can, but like make sure you cross the border, whatever. And basically this truck is intercepted, and we see this in Mikhail's story by Sergei and Mikhail. So Sergei is the one that finds her, and he like really wants to look after her because of his past. He assumption of like he has a chance to save a woman in like almost the same exact circumstances. So he basically like takes her back to his house and is like, no one's taking her from me, like I'm gonna take care of her, which is awful and weird and creepy, but also kind of sweet. I don't know. And basically he just keeps her at her house, and she is very confused and nervous at first, and she doesn't want to say who she is because like she knows the Russian Bratva, and like she doesn't want to be involved with them at all, especially because she's part of the cartel and they're kind of in agreement right now, so like they would send her back down is her worry. But Sergio's like, no, I don't do anything that really they tell me to do. Like, I'm my own person, whatever. So they just kind of form this connection and this friendship, and then it's taken to like the next level because Sergei has one of his like snaps or one of like his moments where like he would go into like a crazed frenzy, you could say, but Angelina's able to talk him down, and Felix, the like father figure, is really astounded by this and is like, that's like never happened before. How'd you do that? And she's like, what do you mean? I just like talked to him. So then Felix is like, interesting, you guys have a connection. So then he tells Roman, the leader of the Russian Bratva, and Roman's like, super interesting because we kind of need to keep Sergei on a leash because like he's going crazy too frequently. So he basically hires Angelina, and like he knows the truth about her, and he's like, if you can keep Sergei calm, like we won't send you back. Like we'll just keep you. Like that's fine. And she's like, okay, dope. Like, and it's like for 3 or 4 or 6 months or whatever, and then she gets to like leave. It's like something like that. And she's like, okay, dope. Yeah, totally, I'll do that. So they like form a connection and really start like trusting each other, and it's sweet. It's pretty sweet. I like Sergei. He's pretty fun. And yeah, and then she eventually like tells him who she really is, and he already knew, and then eventually she leaves because the guy from the cartel like finds her and threatens Sergei. So she's like, oh my God, at this point she's in love with him. So she's like, I don't want him to get hurt. So she goes back down to Mexico, but she just tells Sergei that she's leaving because she doesn't love him and like she just was there because she had to be basically. And Sergei's obviously distraught. And this only lasts like a chapter until he realizes that she's been captured and then he goes down to save her and this grand epic scene where he like literally blows up like three towns or something insane and saves her and they're like so happy and then they're together. Okay, this next one was honestly pretty weird. It's called Ruined Secrets and the story is about Isabella and Luca. First off, it's weird for multiple reasons. First off, it's weird because it's an age gap and not just like usually I just ignore age gaps because like I don't like age gaps at all, especially when the age gap is like the person's like 18 or something and especially when they knew that person as a minor. No, like that's not chill. That's not cool. But I can ignore it just for the fact of like I don't have to see it play out in front of me like I would have to like on a TV show or a film. Like I literally just erase it from my mind and I'm like they're the exact same age. That's what I do every single time. But sometimes the books like keep reminding you, and this was one of those books where it just was like, she's this age. What was her name? Isabella? Yeah, Isabella's like this age, and she has all these memories of having a crush on Luca from when she was young and all stuff. And I'm like, stop. Mm-mm, mm-mm. So that was really annoying to me. It also was weird because basically the story is they're part of the Italian Costa Nostra, the mafia, and she basically has been in love with Luca for like ever, even though he's like 15 years older than her or something like that, I want to say. But she's been in love with him forever since he saved her from drowning when she was like 7 years old or something. She's like, he's my hero, yay. And basically his wife, no, I was gonna say his wife dies, but that's not true. His wife cheats on him and he wants a new wife. So basically, also there's some reason, oh, like she's the granddaughter of the capo. So he's like, you have to marry her because Luca's gonna become the new capo, and he's like, to become that, you have to marry Isabella. So he marries Isabella and agrees, and it's a dual perspective. So we see Isabella being like, oh my God, this is like a dream come true. This is so amazing. This is lovely. Like blah 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 blah. Like I'm in bliss. And then Luca being like, she's a child. Like I'm not gonna touch her. She's a child. Like this is ridiculous. And they so basically he just ignores her for like the first half of the book. They like barely interact. If they do, it's just like him yelling at her. She's super frustrated. She doesn't really know what to do. It's her like trying to like figure out what to do. And then basically he has this huge car crash where he's trying to be and he doesn't, but he loses all of his short-term memory. Or maybe is it long-term? Yeah, long-term, not short-term. LOL. But he doesn't remember like anything that's happened over the past like year or two. So he doesn't remember Isabella. He doesn't remember the relationship. He doesn't remember all of these mafia things he has to do since he's become capo. Like he doesn't remember anything, and that puts him at a very vulnerable position because someone's already trying to him and take over as capo. And we kind of have some people who are suspects, but it's like this is really important that he's shown to be like really strong. So Isabella and his brother, who I have no memory of what his name is, they basically take over, and Isabella especially is like, we need to get you up to date so that you can pretend convincingly that like you remember what's going on so no one can like get the upper hand on you or whatever. So she's very smart. She knows what's going on. So basically she does that and she like just trains him and does all this stuff of like making sure he knows all these things and is like being perfect, whatever. And she also lies to him though and says that like she doesn't lie. She says that like they're married, which they are, but then she says that he's in love with her, which isn't true to her knowledge. So then Luca is being like the kind of husband she already wanted him to be. Like he's like they're in like a full relationship at this point. He's being like affectionate towards her. He calls her sweet names. They sleep in the same bed. They're like a full-on fledged couple now, which they were not before the crash. So she feels guilty about this, but also not enough to like tell him because this is like what she's always wanted. So it's kind of complicated. And then basically he starts getting his memories back and he eventually remembers that like he they weren't sleeping in the same bed and they didn't have this relationship before the crash, but he has also fallen for her, so he doesn't want to like say that or tell her that or whatever. And then basically they try to lead him to this trap, the people who wanted to take over for him. They basically lead him into this trap, and then since he's gotten all of his memories back, he like knows that it's not true and can like flip it on them. And then also that makes Isabella know that he has all of his memories back, and then she's like, oh my gosh, he doesn't really love me. It's gonna go back to like the cold ways it was before. And then he's like, oh, you don't know, I loved you before and whatever. But my qualms about this book are still mostly the age gap, because it's like so apparent. Like the first half of the book, he liked her a lot and he loved her eventually, but the only reason he didn't want to do anything with her is because he was like, I've known her since I was a child, which I'm like, fair point. Fair point, Luca. That is weird. That is a weird and concerning thing. And like I get it, like they're married now, but like that doesn't erase that. And she's also supposed to be like 19 or something in this book, and he's in like his late 30s. I'm like, I just don't want to deal with this. I don't want this. I don't know whose fantasy this is. Maybe it is some people's, but like it just creeps me out and it makes me feel really uncomfortable. Age gaps like always do, and like I said, I can usually like just forget about them, but I couldn't for this book. So this book was like absolutely awful, so bad I hated it. Okay, the next we're on book five is Stolen Touches, and this is Milene and Salvatore. Um, I really liked this book. This is probably my second favorite. It follows, I just said their names, but the Italian mafia, but in New York. So we've been in Chicago for like basically this whole time now, but we are in New York now. And basically, Salvatore is the capo of the New York Italian mafia, and he is greatly feared. Like, of all of these men, of all of these leaders, like, he is the most feared. Like, he just has a reputation. No one really sees him, so no one really knows what he looks like, and it's like this whole big thing. Melanie is the sister of Bianca. Remember Bianca from Bianca and Mikhail? Also, so I just realized those sisters are my favorite stories. Makes sense. Anyways, it's my Italian heritage shining through. No, I'm kidding. Basically, Milene, like, she doesn't want to be a mafia wife. She doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want that responsibility or that life at all. So basically, she wants to be a nurse, and she actually ends up doing this. But she's in New York, basically doing it for school or like do like whatever. And she's doing that in New York, but that's like a no-no because she's from Chicago and she did not ask for permission to go to New York, and that's a huge no-no for Salvatore. Like that's like against his rules and stuff. Whatever. So she goes there like against all wishes, and she's basically working at an ER as a nurse. And Salvatore sees her for the first time, literally helping a woman give birth to a baby in a car in the parking lot. So like, yeah, she's a bad girl. Like she's a bad, like she just is. And she's a baddie. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyways, so he like falls in love like instantly, and he's like, who is this girl? And then he gets a call that there is someone from the Chicago uh mafia that is in New York, and he's like, oh, that's so interesting. And then they send her a picture or send him a picture, and it's her, and he's like, oh my god, even more interesting. So then he's just kind of like obsessed with her. So then he starts like seeing her outside and is like chatting her up basically, and Melanie likes it, and they end up like hooking up. And then Salvatore gets shot at, so then she's freaked out, but she doesn't really know what's going on. And then basically her brother finds her and is told that she has to marry the big scary capo of New York because she like went against his wishes and went to New York without permission, and like this is the punishment she has to pay. And she's so not for this. She's so angry. She doesn't know what to do. She's like whatever. And then she sees who the capo is, and it's Salvatore, who she already has met and already hooked up with. And she's like, you're joking me. Like you knew who I was. And he was like, yeah, I knew who you were. Like I was just messing around with you, which is like why I like Salvatore. Like I like that like kind of arrogant guy in books. Like he's fun. He's fun. So basically, they are forced to get, or she's forced to get married to him. He kind of just does it just cause. Like I don't know. Like he's just really fascinated by her. I don't know. So he's like, you're gonna marry me, whatever. So they have a forced marriage, and it's like at the beginning she just like doesn't like him, and she's just like so like angry about it. And there's also this thing that like Salvatore's been shot like 10 times or something ridiculous, but he just like keeps surviving. And that comes up later because like when she starts caring about him, she's like, promise me you won't get shot again. And he's like, I'm not going to promise that. I get shot at all the time. And she gets really mad about that. And then he does end up getting shot again. and she gets even madder. That's when they're like already in love, and she's like, "You said you made a promise." He was like, "I actually didn't promise you because I knew this was gonna happen." And then the next time they get captured, and it's like this whole big thing. But basically, Milene like puts her body in front of Salvatore, so she gets shot instead of him, and he is fuming. He is so mad, which I love. I love that trope where it's like the girl puts herself in front of the danger for the boy, and the boy is like furious and is like, no, like I die before you even get hurt. I don't know why I love that, but I do love that. And so he's all mad, and then yeah, and then they're in love, and I think it's important to note and cute that he calls her or she calls him Torre, like Salvatore. And I think that's really cute. And it's also funny when you see interactions of like other people who know Salvatore or even just have heard of him, and he's like the scariest capo and like the scariest leader of all of these mafias, which is something to be said. And then he's like a pile of mush around his cute little wife, and it's so sweet and cute, and like she's the only one that gets to call him a nickname, and like even his mom is like, boy, you're whipped, like this is so cute, and it was just cute. Okay, the next book is Fractured Souls, and this is where we kind of really go off the rails, and I wasn't as sure about the series. This book has major, major, major trigger warnings, so please be kind to yourself and look those up if you're wanting to read this book and don't know anything about it. Um, Basically, I'm not going to go into it that much because I don't want to. Um, it's the story of Asya and Pavel. Pavel is part of the Russian Bratva, and Asya is part of the Italian Chicago. I'm pretty sure, maybe New York. I think she's New York. Um, but basically, Asya is a twin, which her twin will come up later. But she gets kidnapped, and a lot of really, really awful, awful, awful bad things happen to her. And then she's like saved by Pavel, right place, right time kind of vibe. And it's her story of healing and then falling in love in that process. It was not my favorite book. I don't know how I feel about a book being written like this. I don't have a problem with most of it, but the first couple of scenes depicting what she had to go through, I think were unnecessary and harmful. Um, but beyond that, the author did put a lot of warnings in and did say that it is a skippable book, that you do not need to read it, and that you should be kind to yourself, which I think was an important message to put before the book. But still, I don't really know how to feel about it, so I'm just going to kind of skip right past it. Okay, now we're on the seventh book, which is Burned Dreams, which is Alessandro and Ravenna. And Alessandro is one part of that collection of boys with Sergei that is like the government assassins type deal. Alessandro has ended up in the Italian, I believe, yeah, New York Italian mafia, just because of like his skill set. They were just like, yeah, sure, you can work with us. Like, yeah, you're really good. And Ravenna is married to a guy. I don't remember his name. We're gonna call him Don. Sure. She's married to Don, and it's very much against her will. It's because of her brother's gambling bets. Common trope in these gambling bets and women paying them off by marrying someone they don't want to. But anyways, she is paying off her like brother's debts by being married to Don. He's awful, abusive, horrible, gross human. We don't like Don at all. The story kind of starts because Alessandro gets assigned as her like personal bodyguard. Alessandro comes in and he has this plan. Like this is not just like him being randomly assigned. He has worked years and years, like 10 years in his master plan to get back at Don because like when he was just trying to get out of the like agency or whatever, the government thing, he was married, and his wife was killed by a drunk driver, and they fled the scene and didn't help her, and she was walking. She was like walking. She wasn't in a car. And her life could have been saved if the person had stopped and helped her, but they didn't, so she died alone on the sidewalk, and he was distraught because she was his whole life. And he did a lot of research and all this like investigation and basically found out that Dawn was the one who did it. So he's formed this revenge plan for years and years and years, and basically his idea is that He's going to take away like his status in the mafia. He's going to take away his money. He's going to also hurt his father because his father was the one who like really covered it up for him. And then as the final act, he is going to his wife Ravenna, and then him. So fun. So that's his plan and his intention when he starts. And Ravenna's also hiding a secret because she is trying to get enough money to run away from Dawn with her family, with her mom and her brother. So she's been saving up money and like kind of stealing from Dawn to get this money to be able to save her family. And Alessandro very quickly picks up on this and is kind of like, what's going on? Like, I thought she was just an annoying like trophy wife, but she's like more. And basically, he just starts like forming a relationship with her, and they eventually have a lot of feelings for each other. And Alessandro does not like this because that's not part of his plan. Like his plan was literally to her, and now he's like having major feelings for her, and like is the first woman he's been with since his wife, and it's like this whole complicated thing. And he doesn't really know what to do about it, and he's wrestling with those feelings a lot. And then Ravenna is like doesn't really know how this is going to end and doesn't really know how she's supposed to get out of this, and she's slowly kind of figuring out that Alessandro has like also ulterior motives, but like can't quite figure out what they are. And then basically everything is revealed to her after her and Alessandro kind of like say they love each other, and he has this whole master plan to run away with her. So basically what's going to happen is that he is going to Don in the hospital because he was already in the hospital because of Alessandro, and then he is going to burn their house down and burn their bodies, which are actually like not theirs. Um, and then when everyone sees it, they'll just think they died in the house and they won't be looking for them anywhere. So it's like perfect, cool game plan. But Don comes home early because he's suspecting something. So then the plan kind of gets ruined. But then basically the same thing kind of ends up happening. Of Alessandro kind of burns the house down with Don's actual body in it, and the two bodies that are supposed to be them. And then they kind of run away. And it's kind of like slay vibes, whatever. Okay, the last book that we have out right now is Silent Lies, and that follows Drago, probably, and Sienna. Sienna is the twin sister of Asya, who is the book that I didn't really talk about that much. They're from the Italian New York mafia, whatever. And then I'm pretty sure I kind of forget, but Drago is the capo or leader of I think it's the Ukrainian one, but I don't remember what it's called, and it doesn't say in the description. But I'm like 99.9% sure it's the Ukrainian division of the mafia, which was interesting. I'd never read one that was the Ukrainian, so I was like, okay, dope, cool. Um, but yeah, basically she's forced to marry him. He's like, hey, how would you feel about spying on them because we need intel on them and like the new like drug routes they're doing or whatever. And she's kind of just like she's seen as this like frivolous, like doesn't really care girl. Like she doesn't really have anything going in her life. She doesn't really have passion. She doesn't really know what she wants to do. She's not very smart. She's not like whatever. Like she doesn't really like have anything for herself. And she just kind of plays along and like acts dumb a lot of the time. So she just accepts and is like, yeah, sure, whatever, I guess. And does it. And this super shocks her brother and her sister, and they're like, are you okay? Like, why are you just marrying this random man you've never met in your life? And she's just like, I don't know, why not? Basically, is the answer she keeps giving. And they don't trust that. And like, honestly, it's kind of sad because she just is like so complacent and not feeling like she has anything special to give or that she's anything worth anything. So she kind of just like succumbs to her fate and is like, whatever is gonna happen is gonna happen. If they want me to marry, I'll marry, I guess. Like, what else am I supposed to do kind of deal. Drago is big and whatever. But basically their relationship is just kind of like show. Like Drago's like, I didn't really want to get married. Like I kind of had to get married. Like whatever. Like we're not gonna like sleep in the same bed and we're not gonna do like whatever. And she's kind of like, okay, like whatever you want. She was picked specifically for this job of spying because she's really good at languages. She already knows like six languages, and then she starts learning Ukrainian, and she can pick it up pretty easily. So like in like 2 months or something, she's like not fluent, but she can definitely like understand people enough to report back to I think Salvatore, one of the Italian mob leaders, and like just tell them what's going on. But she quickly like really doesn't like doing that because she's like, well, I'm like betraying these people that I'm starting to become friends with, and that just seems really wrong. And also she's like, and where really do my loyalties lie? I don't know. Like I'm not really a part of like the mafia at all. And I was like, that's so true, girl. Like you're not really a part of the mafia. Like none of the females really are. So it's kind of like I don't know. Like I don't know how you feel about it all, but they start forming this connection and Drago really likes her. He just like knows she's hiding a secret and he actually knows she's spying, but he just doesn't really care because he's like, but she's still here and like she hasn't really done anything that bad, so he's just kind of like, that's like interesting to me. And then he like purposely tells her information, like seeing if it'll get back to the Italian mafia, and it doesn't. So he's like starting to trust her more and stuff. And basically, they just kind of have this like slow progression of a romance, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, I do really want to be with you. This is the life I wanted. I can't believe I found the love that I thought I'd never get." And like, she kind of finally like accepts that and whatever. Honestly, kind of boring. Again, it's kind of just like a classic. I don't know, like, I don't know. I wasn't so excited reading it. It wasn't like so good to get through, but like it wasn't bad. Like I didn't not enjoy it. It was just like, eh. So that was all the books that are out right now, but I kind of want to read the blurb for book 9, Darkest Sins, that is not out yet. Um, just because I don't know, it sounds fun. So the boy Kai is one of the other boys from the government thing with Sergei and Alessandro. So that's how we know him. But so basically, it's Nera. In a night of blood and death, fate brought us together. I thought I was saving the life of an innocent man, a man I'd never see again. I was wrong. A silent shift in the air, a glint of silver eyes in the darkness. I may not see him, but I know he's there, my angel of death lurking in the shadows, watching over me, protecting me, before disappearing into thin air until we meet again. A man who took a bullet for me, but he won't touch me, love me, or even share his name. And then Kai's perspective. Darkness, pain, blood is all I've ever known, an empty shell of a human being, no heart, no soul, no dream, surrounded by death, as a dead man walking, but then her light shone through my darkness, breathing life into my dead soul, my fearless tiger cub, my only reason to keep living. Every time I try to leave her in the light, my black heart breaks and bleeds as I retreat into the shadows where I belong. I cannot change the past. I cannot take back what I've done, my darkest sin. So I'm excited for that book because they kind of teased us with it because at the end of book 8, Alessandro and Sergei went on this mission with Felix to look for Kai, and Sergei wasn't really in on it. Like he was like, "Ugh, I don't really want to do this." And Alessandro's like, "Are you joking? Like he's one of us. Like he's the only one left. Like we need to help him and save him." And they basically save him from some mob or mafia. I don't remember where he was. Honestly, I think he might have been in Mexico. I don't really remember. But they save him and he's delirious and he's super battened and tortured, but he's like, my tiger cub, and he keeps saying it, and I was like, I love that. I love that. So I was excited about it. But that's the ninth book. Obviously, I haven't read it. I don't really know anything about it. But yeah, so that's the series. Mikkel's book is definitely my favorite. Mikkel and Bianca, and then it would be her sister Milene's, and Salvatore's book is my second favorite. Um, Beautiful series, I think as a whole mostly. I've enjoyed most of the books. It definitely, I think like a mafia series where you have like a ton of books like these anyways, I feel like there's always books that are like way better and books that are way worse. I feel like that's just how my trend has always kind of been. I'm not expecting everyone to be like an absolute banger hit. So I understand, but I very much enjoyed it. I do recommend it. I do think it was fun and I did enjoy it. I will be reading that new book whenever it comes out. I'll try to keep you guys updated on that. But thank you so much for watching this as usual. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have an amazing, wonderful, beautiful, fantastic day because you are. And thank you for watching this video and I'll see you guys in the next one.